Okay, we're back, baby. Woo! Back from ShotShow. ShotShow 2022 was super fun. So in today's episode of the podcast, I apparently struggle with my microphone placement, but I'm super pumped, to be home and to share this experience with you guys. Because if you didn't know, ShotShow is not open to the public. So it's not like anybody can't just go, hey, I want to go to ShotShow this year. It just doesn't work like that. So you got to be kind of in the industry, and they've got quite a vetting process to actually let you into ShotShow, which is, it's an interesting business model. Now, to answer some questions that we saw on social media, a couple of big companies didn't attend ShotShow this year. A couple of companies had some of their employees get COVID and had to pull out last minute. I know logistically some companies had booth spaces rented, but none of their gear showed up, and a random dude is sitting there on a fold-out chair. I felt really bad for those guys. That sucks. Big investment to sort of have that being rug ripped under your feet at the last second. But anyway, so today's video, I've made some notes on my extensive travels on the way back home. It took me 56 hours and 22 minutes from the moment that I left my hotel till I pulled into my driveway here in Durbanville. Quite a long days. I will probably in my life never fly with Qatar Airways again. On the way out to Las Vegas, our one flight took off an hour late, almost missed a connection. On the way back, I missed 2 connections and ended up spending 19-something hours at Doha Airport, which sucked. But the duty-free is legit. They even had a Lamborghini there for duty-free in the middle of the airport, which was, I hadn't seen that before. So I guess there's that. Anyway, so basically how I made my way to ShotShow is, I went to shoot the NRL Championship match. That obviously didn't go quite as planned. I still ended up getting second for the season. But, with the sort of amount of work I put into the season, I will kind of take second. This year I was focused, or last year really, because this is really last year, I was really focused on the business and growing the YouTube channel, and I was kind of shooting on natural talent alone, and to get second with that, with no practice, no drive for nothing, I'll take that. And the guy who ended up winning the match overall, he shot really well. He beat everyone fair and square. The guy that ended up winning the championship, story for another day, that one. Anyway, so let's jump into ShotShow. So what I'm going to do sort of for you guys is run sort of through the things as I wrote them down. Number one, if you haven't watched my video on the ACC Elite, that is what they're calling, what MDT are calling their new ACC chassis. Now, the ACC chassis has been sort of the go-to precision rifle competition, National Rifle League, PRS style chassis for the competitor. So basically, what they've done now is made enhancements to them and made the next version just so much better. Now, even in the video that I did with Keith, he says, we were hard pushed. It was not an easy task coming up with things to make the Gen 1 better. Now, will MDT stop making the Gen 1? No, they won't. At least that is not the plan at the moment. So I'm excited to see sort of a newer version of the ACC. I actually have one on the wall over there. Excited to start shooting that. They also came out with a whole bunch of other stuff. They've got the new Timberline, which I didn't do a video on, but we will be doing a video on that soon. There's a new RX chassis coming, which looked really interesting. A bunch of the stuff was super early prototypes, and even my J. Allen chassis that I have here, half the parts are 3D printed on that guy. So it was cool, though, for them to sort of show what they've been working with. They also, I actually didn't know, and when I made my list, I didn't know if I was going to be able to talk about this. MDT are coming out with an electronic trigger, a 0-stage trigger. Now, I got to play with this thing at ShotShow. And early in the week, some of my Patreons, when Martin sort of leaked, or not leaked, but when he told people, they'd develop this trigger with LabRadar, they'd sort of done the design part, the engineering part, the manufacturing part, and the LabRadar team had done the electronics part. The discussion we sort of had is, what is it going to feel like? Now, from my side, I've played with this thing, as I said. It feels pretty good. I'm excited to do more testing with it. You can bet your left butt cheek it's going to feature on the channel when it does become available. So more on that later. But an electronic trigger. I always find it interesting when companies like this sort of come up with something that we didn't know we needed. It's sort of like the laser wind meter type thing. That's sort of where our discussion went on the Patreon group. Like, where do you draw the line, you know? Because good shooting fundamentals, I think if you've got bad fundamentals, even the best trigger in the world is not going to help you there. And our triggers that we kind of shoot in the competition rifles are pretty light as they are. That trigger is also pretty freaking light. I think you can start setting it as low as 2 ounces. So it's pretty cool. And it was cool to see sort of something different, you know, pushing the boundaries of what we think is possible. So that brings us to the J. Allen chassis. You know, J. Allen, I saw some comments after I did the initial video on that. Quite a few of you guys haven't heard of that. And that might be because you're sort of new in the competition scene. As I said in that video, that used to be like the stock chassis. You can almost use that term interchangeably with the J. Allen because it's a dual role system, if you will. It's got sort of the best of both worlds in one system. Now, that company didn't make it, and MDT kind of bought them out, and they decided to bring the brand back, which I'm super pumped for. Now, this has been coming for about 2 years now, and we're very close to those chassis hitting the market. Now, I saw a bunch of you guys saying when J. Allen stopped making them, they were like $2,000, and you're wondering what the price point is going to be with MDT. Obviously, I've got no idea of the price point, but what I can tell you, it's a very, very complicated piece of equipment. There's lots of little moving parts. The machining quality is stupid. I actually, you know, Skulk and I looked at it and we were like, why are they putting in these little details that adds zero function, but it's going to add quite a lot of machine time. So those kind of things, you know, to get to a final product where you go like, oh my word, this thing is jaw-dropping. That's the kind of stuff you need to do. So it is not going to be cheap. So keep that in mind, but it is freaking awesome. I've got the red one, and it's badass. Super pumped to start shooting it. Then we saw some of the new Burris optics. Okay, I forget the name of the optic at the time of recording this. But what I did find quite interesting is in the reticle, and I'm not going to do this because I want to keep the podcast not edit heavy. But in the reticle, basically, so let's, for example, if we go down the bottom half of your reticle. So the stadia that they did was, you know, they've got 0.5 like we're used to on sort of an EBR type reticle. Then they've got 1 mil. But then at the 0.5 towards the mil mark, they've also got another little cross there for you. But it's very, very subtle. So that kind of gives you like, you know, if you need to hold a 0.5 mil and a 0.5 mil's worth of wind, that you're not sort of holding in no man's land, if that does make sense to you guys. But it's very subtly done and it's actually quite cool. So I thought that was quite a nice little reticle design. Especially for me, somebody that's used to sort of, you know, the EBR style reticles. Now, while we're on reticles, I also had a look at the Zero Comps and the Zero Compromise optics scopes. Very nice. I think we can all admit, well, at least from my side, you guys know I like having my stuff look really cool. Those scopes do look really, really cool. I'm not crazy about the reticle options they do offer though, and I think the reticle is a little bit thick for what I'm sort of used to, so it does feel a little bit girthy, but it's a really nice scope. Then, speaking of really nice scopes, I have the Gen 3 Razor. Now, I've spent some time with it. Obviously, I'll do an unboxing video for you guys on that so you can kind of see what you're going to get. But I think we kind of know that at this point in time, it's pretty standard now from Vortex. Packaging, as always, absolutely on point. The glass is something, yeah, we'll get to that in the actual video, but super pumped to do some more shooting with that and bring you guys a sort of complete overview on that. You know that I don't like putting out a review after 5 minutes of owning something, so usually the first video is like an initial impressions type of thing. Where does it stack up, features, benefits, things I like, things I don't like, and then we sort of have a little bit more of a longer term review later. I think that's a fairer way of doing something. I think it's a more authentic way to give you guys information. You know, I'm obviously sponsored by Vortex. They gave me the scope for free. So I am a little bit biased to that, but I do feel like I owe it to you guys to spend quite a bit of time with something before I just go out and tell you, hey, you should buy this. It's freaking awesome. So keep an eye out for that video and make sure you're subscribed if you're not already so you can get notified when that video actually does go up. Then something else I got to get hands-on with is the new BAT machine Vesper action that they're making for unknown munitions. So it's basically BAT making these actions as a limited run for the guys from Unknown Munitions. Now, it's a skeletonized HR action, basically, which means it's a long action, and it looks super, super cool. Now, I'm super excited to do a build on that action pretty shortly, and I'm thinking, relatively sure, I'm going to do a 338 Ackley improved build on that, and maybe even pop it in like a J. Allen chassis for some long-range shooting, because that's where the people say this chassis really does really well, is sort of long-range prone type of stuff. They love them for that. So maybe that's a good fit. Excuse the pun. Now, speaking of the J. Allen, by the way, just to sort of rewind a little bit, initially, Remington 700 short action. Now, Tikkas, left actions, those kind of things, to do the R&D on these things, it's a lot of work, and it's not just a question of action screws moving. Where your trigger guard drops in, there's a lot of different changes, so it's a lot of work to bring on more and more actions. But as we know with MDT, they do keep adding things as a sort of product line gets built out, so keep that in mind. At launch, Remington 700 footprints. And that means your, bats, most of the custom actions run off a Remington 700 footprint. Now, in 2020, when I went to ShotShow, I got hands-on with the Falcor, I think it's called the 7 action. Now, back then, it was super new, and it wasn't great. What I can tell you guys is this year, I went past their booth specifically because my friend Sean told me to swing by there and check it out. I went by there and I played with this action. It feels damn good. They've come a hell of a long way since I got hands-on with it 2 years ago, and I'm pumped to see where they go with it. So I was quite impressed. What was also super cool, they've got a 300 PRC chambered in an AR platform. Ridiculous. Okay, so super cool. Let me know in the comments down below if you're watching on YouTube if we need one of those for the channel. That would be baller. Now, my number one goal when I go to ShotShow is to nurture relationships with channel partners and build new partners, meet old friends, make new friends, and we did a ton of that. I arrived at my hotel room after something like 29 hours of flying and traveling, and I literally put my bags down in my room. Like, this all happened within about 2 minutes. I put my bags down, I got a message from Gavin from Ultimate Reload, and he said, Travis and him were heading out to a party with some other NRL guys, I should come. And I was like, oh man, the jet lag's going to kick my ass tomorrow. I really shouldn't do this. But I did, because YOLO. And we had a ton of fun, and it was so cool meeting, again, reconnecting with some of the old NRL guys. And it was a ton of fun. We're probably going to do some collab stuff with Gavin them pretty shortly. They do super high level technical reloading advice and gear reviews and stuff. And they've got some freaking awesome equipment that they showcase on their channels, but I'm gonna try help them with some, sort of positional stuff. Travis wants to get into NRL, those kind of things. So I'm gonna try give them sort of my expertise on that front, and we're gonna do a couple of videos together now, especially that COVID has sort of relaxed. Not COVID, but the international travel is sort of a bit more open. Although after my nightmare getting home with the misconnections, I do not look forward to flying to the US anytime soon, but I probably will be in the US a few times this year, so I'm pumped about the opportunities that may bring about. Now, speaking of friends and relationships, the one night we went out with sort of the Trigger Tech guys, and Jake Verbert was there, who's obviously a really good shooter, top rank NRL shooter in America, super good guy, unbelievably knowledgeable, as you'd expect. Guys shot more freaking ammo in 1 year than most of us will shoot in a lifetime combined. And what was really interesting is he's changing back to a 6.5 Creedmoor for the coming season, which I thought was interesting. Now, if you thought that was interesting, you will think it's more interesting that he's going to be shooting the new True Velocity ammo. Okay, so if you don't know what True Velocity is, they basically reinvented ammo in the sense that there's no longer a brass case that holds the powder and the primer. It's a plastic case. Okay, it's a polymer case. So this means you can't obviously reload your brass, but it also reduces the weight and the costs of making ammo. So he's going to be shooting 6.5 Creed in essentially a plastic case in the NRL series, which is super exciting. And the reason he's going 6.5 Creed is so that he can shoot the same rifle in sort of PRS, NRL style formats, and have enough sort of power factor to shoot NRL Hunter matches. So I think that's a smart move. It'll be very interesting to see what kind of results he's getting. He has done some testing with it. They're going to load A-tips for him in that. So, Jake's a smart guy. He wouldn't make a decision like this if it wasn't going to hammer for him. And he was saying they're getting ESs and stuff under 10 out of plastic ammo, which is remarkable. So that is something super exciting. I always like it when people push the boundaries and they try and prove technologies like that. So I think that's really, really cool. Now, something that was sort of a common theme with almost every single company that exhibited at ShotShow is how incredibly deep they are into their back orders. Some of the companies I met with have back orders 2 years long. So you guys are absolute savages with the amount of stuff you've been purchasing. I don't know if we're hoarding or we're just buying too many guns or what the hell we're doing. But these companies, $100+ million companies cannot keep up with the production. It's really something special. So that's sort of a common theme, with what we struggle with APW is we want to make more stuff, but you guys buy them faster than we can make them. But I said to Skulk, we should kind of feel better that our back orders are like 3 weeks deep and not 2 years deep. So I guess that's a silver lining if you ever wanted to look for one. But just on that note, guys, I want to thank you so much for supporting this company of ours. We are incredibly grateful, and we are going to rock your world in the next couple of weeks, maybe months. So stand by. We've been busy. Let's just put it that way. I'm super excited to see what the future holds for all of the companies in this space. It's such an exciting time. The boundaries are getting pushed with what we can do with long-range shooting, with precision rifle, how accurate these calibers are getting, how good the glass is, the scopes, all the stuff, the ballistic stuff, the laser wind readers. It is an exciting time. Laser wind readers are it's going to be where I draw the line with like what we can and cannot use. But man, it's an exciting time to be a precision rifle shooter or even a hunter, and you like nice gear and technology and seeing, the envelope getting pushed. So I'm super, super pumped to be in this space, especially in my position during this sort of, I almost want to say it's like a parabolic growth curve at this point in time. Okay, so let's talk about some of the things that, you might also want to know. You would have seen Aero Precision. Okay, so they make ARs and those kind of things. They came out with a new bolt action rifle. And a chassis to match. Now, that bolt had more lube on. I thought I was at the KY booth. It felt good, but it had a ton of lube on, and I can make a Howa bolt action feel pretty damn smooth with a little bit of lube. You could actually, when you looked in that action, you could see how wet it was from all the oil and lube they had on there. Now, on that note, as I said earlier, Falcor, being an AR company, they've done a bolt action. That thing was bone dry. But it's a nitrite, or it was DLC or combination. It was, but regardless of the fact, it was bone dry and it was butter smooth. And they've also got a chassis to match that. So that was quite cool to see sort of them, make that progression. I also hung out by the Daniel Defense booth, did quite a bit of talking with those guys. Got to feel that Delta 5 of theirs. I think a year or two ago, if memory serves, it was like the official rifle of the PRS. That bolt action sucks. Oh my word, it's terrible. It's like, so no offense if you own one, but you made a mistake buying it in its current configuration. I don't know if they've since changed it and they're sitting with a whole bunch of old stock, but to display that on a booth, it's not a great action. And that was that is my opinion. But as we were sort of hanging out, a couple of precision rifle guys around the booth, that was the overall opinion that it's a little bit dodge. So that was it from sort of the ShotShow side. I also saw this press with like micrometer adjustments on the shell plates, which I kind of don't get, and it seemed a little bit gimmicky because you've got micrometers on your dice. So I kind of didn't get that. But I guess literally different strokes for different folks. Also met a couple of cool people. In fact, one of the coolest moments I had was like, I was walking, at ShotShow at about 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Some of the companies, they'll crack open a keg, and they've got some, Daniel Defense beer glasses, like plastic cups, and people will walk around, having a beer while networking. This is what we do. And I was walking down an aisle, and I saw Matt from Demolition Ranch with like his whole posse of people coming down the front. And I was like, fanboy, hello, I met you guys in 2020, but I very much doubt that he will remember. May actually remembered me, which was quite funny because I chatted with her for quite a while. But anyway, we sort of greet each other in passing. And as I go past, the one guy, he turns and says, Pete, is that you? And we have like a little moment, and he takes a selfie with me. So it turns out he's like the camera dude for Matt. So that was pretty cool. So maybe, I don't know, maybe we'll do a collab in the future. That could be fun. I also met Brandon Herrera from, everybody knows Brandon's channel, the AK guy, and I told him what I sort of do on my channel, and he said, oh, you do what I do, but with skill, which I thought was quite funny. Also met Donut again. I met Donut obviously last year. And then we hung out with some other really cool people, and we got told about some other stuff coming down the line, which I cannot tell you guys in a video yet. But anyway, that was ShotShow. Came back. Obviously, I missed the family so much. Every single night. And with the 10-hour time difference, jet lag is still kicking my butt. But with the 10-hour time difference, you know, I kind of get Olivia and Danny on the arse end of every day, you know. And every time I Skype with them, she would be like, Daddy, please come home, please. You know, it was terrible in that regard. But you know, got home and everything is back to normal. It took her about a day or two to sort of give me some space again, because she was super like freaking latched on. I call her a Papa Perlemoen, which is like a daddy abalone, because she's stuck to me like an abalone will stick itself onto a rock. So in Afrikaans, we call her a Papa Perlemoen or a Mama Mossel. I don't know who's still watching it like 20 minutes on in, but anyway. Yeah, guys, thanks for watching. Thanks to MDT for all the new cool stuff they've got going and coming. Yeah, anyway, I'm going to wrap it up. I'll see you guys in the next one. Love you long time. Be lekker. Bye.